All right, so returning now to Gravity's Rainbow, we are on part 3. This will be on episodes 18, 19, and 20. And these chapters, especially 19 and 20, are some of the funniest in the book, actually. There's some great vaudeville comedy and slapstick humor. Chapter 18, episode 18, is a very short one where we're just back on board the Anubis with Slothrop. And there's a storm out, it's raining, and he's searching around the ship still for Bianca. He's still looking for Margarita von Erdmann's daughter. And he finds himself up on board the ship, and various thoughts are running through his head about Laszlo Genf and the Escarate. And then it simply ends with him falling off the deck of the ship. So he slips in the rain and falls overboard. He's wearing a tuxedo. And then so episode 19, he is rescued. He transfers to yet another boat. This one doesn't have a name, but it's piloted by a black marketeer woman named Frau Ganab, which is bong, the Hindu word for marijuana spelled backwards. G-N-A-B-H, bong is B-H-A-N-G. So she is this fierce, very aggressive black marketeer woman who, with her son Otto, is running black market up along the Baltic coast. They rescue him, pull him out of the water. He's wearing a tuxedo, which puzzles Otto, the kid. I don't know how old he is. He might be like 15 or 16, which puzzles the kid. So he has to get out of the tuxedo because it's wet, and then they give him an army blanket to dry him off. And they are headed for Swinemünde, which is exactly where Slothrop wants to go. And when they get to the town of Swinemünde, they get out, and he meets Der Springer, the film director Gerhard von Gull, who is also a major black marketeer and a friend of Frau Ganab's. They know each other and do business. And so he finally meets Der Springer. He gets out, and Der Springer can lead him to the Escarate, but only for 10,000 pounds. And of course, Slothrop doesn't have that kind of money, so there's no way he can afford that. He just wants to know where it's at. And so he's talking with Der Springer, and he also meets now a character briefly mentioned before named Klaus Nerisch, who was mentioned in the chapter when the Schwarzkommando were interrogating the aerodynamic engineer Horst Achfaden, and he gave them the name of Klaus Nerisch. So now we finally meet Klaus Nerisch, and he's one of the helpers, one of the guys who works with Der Springer and Frau Ganab. So he comes in, they meet, and they're talking. There's some dialogue, there's a song, and now Der Springer is gathering up a bunch of individuals for to load up onto Frau Ganab's boat that he's going to go do business with them, which includes a group of chimps. I'm not sure how many. It's like, maybe I get the impression it's like 5 or 6 of them. Chimps, a group of chorus girls, and some musicians equipped with tubas, trombones, clarinets, what have you, and some children as well. So this is a merry crew here, in contrast to the degenerate crew of the Anubis. This is a sort of ship of fools, a ship of clowns. It's very funny. So he's got the kids, and they're loading everything up, and he puts check marks regarding the kids. So he's selling children also on the black market. So so this group gets aboard the boat, and they're headed off to they're getting ready to go to Peynemünde when the Russians show up now. Major Zhidov, whom we had met briefly, they show up, and they apprehend Der Springer. They grab him, and they are sent. Slothrop is very well aware that Chicherin is behind this. Chicherin has sent them to go get him. So they get him, and now Nerisch and Slothrop are deciding that they're going to rescue him. So they stay behind. The boat goes off. Frau Ganab takes the boat off a ways, and they stay behind to rescue him. And there's a bunch of chimps and the girls and musicians. The Russians have been chasing them all around, the chimps and the musicians. and the girls. So it's total chaos, which has enabled Narish and Slothrop to stay behind without being noticed, so that the Russians will think they're leaving on board the boat. And so they're going to go into Peenemünde. They know where, in chapter 20 now, which is the rescue, they know where in Peenemünde, and they finally arrive there. They know where they're holding Der Springer, or at least Narish does, because he used to work there. He was one of their rocket scientists. So he knows the place very well. So then follows the chapter, the very hilarious escapades of chapter 20, where this ragtag group of chimps, chorus girls, musicians, and Narish and Slothrop, they don't have any weapons. They don't know how they're going to get Der Springer sprung. They have no idea. And then so they're sitting there trying to come up with something, and Slothrop has an idea to make, because they have all this vodka with them, to make fake Molotov cocktails. And Narish says, well, it's not going to burn very well. And Slothrop says, yes, but they'll think that they're real Molotov cocktails. He grabs some feathers from one of the girls, this chorus girl outfit, puts the feathers into the vodka bottle, and he says, we can light these, and they'll think we have Molotov cocktails. So Slothrop has an idea here. So they go in to the complex of Peenemünde. It's nighttime, and they go in, and he knows exactly the room that Der Springer is being held. And so he's being held in this room, and there's a girl there. He's been injected with sodium amytal. He's not under guard, apparently. Just this girl there who is writing down everything that he says under the influence of sodium amytal. And Slothrop comes in and he says, drop that pencil. And so they rescue Gerhard von Gold, who's on another planet. He's totally incoherent. He's rambling. They can't get anything out of him. And so they rescue him. They take him out, and they run into a soldier that Pynchon describes as like a classic stereotypical fag. He has no interest whatsoever in the goings-on, where many of the other Russian soldiers are out frolicking with the chorus girls, and you can hear music being played by the musicians. And they confront him. They say, "Why aren't you out there with the Fräuleins?" And he says, "Oh, that's not my cup of tea." But they trick him with the fake Molotov cocktail, and he pulls a gun, and they knock the gun out of his hand, and he walks away saying, "You guys are mean." And he walks away very sulkily. And but now they have a gun, and so they bring Der Springer out, and then they encounter Chicherin and Major Zhidov. They see them up the hall. Major Zhidov is there with Chicherin, so indeed Chicherin has sent them to get Der Springer. So this is definitely coming from Chicherin, and Chicherin likes Slothrop, and Slothrop sort of likes Chicherin, so it's kind of an amiable heist, sort of amiable, but he makes them take their clothes off. So they take their uniforms off. He takes some of his clothes off, and they switch clothes. So there's this funny thing where they put a white jacket on Der Springer, and they all mix up their clothes, and then they take Chicherin out at gunpoint with Major Zhidov and use them as hostages for a while anyway, as they're escaping. And then eventually they leave them behind. And then Narish and Slothrop, together with the vomiting chimps. The chimps have been vomiting because they were seasick. Everyone was vomiting actually on board the ship because Frau Gnab was such an aggressive and terrible pilot. And so everyone was constantly vomiting on board her ship. It was a very funny scene with chimps throwing up everywhere. And Otto spots his mother using Morse code in the darkness on the river, using a light blinking Morse code that he thinks is all dots at first, which would spell C's, S-E-E-S, and then one of the guys goes, "Well, what if it's dashes?" And he goes, "Well, if it's dashes, it would spell O-T-T-O." And then he realizes that's his name, so it must be his mother. So they run out, this crew of musicians, chorus girls, chimps, and Slothrop, together with Narish and Der Springer. But Narish gets left behind. For some reason, they lose him while they're trying to escape, and all the chaos and the ensuing Russians who are pursuing them, and they climb on board the boat, Frau Gnab's boat. They all get back on. They help the chimpanzees up out of the water onto the boat. So everyone makes it except, tragically, I guess, for Narish. He's left behind. And then the chapter ends with him brooding and meditating on his fate of being left behind, thinking about a bunch of math equations here. And that's it basically for those 3 chapters, which are very funny. Some of the funniest chapters in the book. A lot of good jokes in here. And then so episode 21 will take us back to the Schwarzkommando now. And then with episode 22, we'll return to the Anubis for one last encounter with Slothrop and the Anubis. So we'll leave it there for this video.